A war that created a nation, millions of lives lost, a humanitarian catastrophe, and a lasting legacy of violence. Welcome to the channel. This is the story of the Kashmir War of 1947, following World War II. The British Empire was on its last legs. By 1947, it had become too costly to maintain. And so the British government decided to grant independence to its Indian territories. But there was a problem. India's diverse population was not a homogeneous one. There were significant religious differences between the people living in the region: Hindus in the south, the Muslims in the north, and the Sikhs in the east. These religious enclaves wanted their own states, but carving up the subcontinent along religious lines would lead to a lot of bloodshed. And so it was decided that the region would be divided into two separate states, one predominantly Hindu and one Muslim. This led to the creation of Pakistan and India as we know it today. But the story of Pakistan's creation is one of violence and bloodshed. The partition of India resulted in the largest mass migration in human history, with more than 14 million people being displaced. More than 1 million people are estimated to have died during this period due to communal violence, including the famous actor and humanitarian Dilip Kumar, whose birth name was Muhammad Yusuf Khan. While most of the fighting was between the new nation of India and the British, there was another conflict going on in the far north of the region. A princely state called Kashmir was enjoying its last days under the rule of the Dogra dynasty. Its Muslim-majority population wanted to join Pakistan, while the Hindu ruler wished to join India. When the ruler signed the instrument of accession, thereby making Kashmir an Indian state, Pakistan did not accept it. This refusal was based on the belief that the decision to join India was undemocratic, since the ruler was only representing a small percentage of the population and that the accession document had been forged. On October, Pakistani proxies launched an invasion into the state. These proxies consisted of irregular forces from the local tribal militias who were promised land and money by the Pakistani government if they invaded the state. On October, Pakistani troops crossed into Kashmir and began their invasion. They were welcomed as liberators by the local Muslim population who rose up against the Dogras. Soon entire villages were being burnt down and massacred. The invaders looted and pillaged as they advanced towards the capital city of Srinagar. When it became clear that the Pakistani proxies were advancing too fast, and the Indian army was not ready to defend the state, the Indian government reached out to the Maharaja of Kashmir for help. He agreed to form a militia force of 2,000 men to defend the state. But they were no match for the invading forces. On November, the Indian army took charge of the situation and pushed back the invaders. Then Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru declared that the Indian armed forces had entered Kashmir to protect its people. The Indian Air Force also played a key role in the war by conducting airstrikes on Pakistani positions. However, despite the Indian military's best efforts, they were unable to push the Pakistani forces out of the region. The war had degenerated into a stalemate, and peace talks were initiated. The warring factions met at a place called Karachi in present-day Pakistan and signed a truce. July 1948. The Karachi Agreement stipulated that both sides would observe a ceasefire and withdraw their troops to their respective positions. It also provided for the United Nations to play a mediating role in resolving the conflict. The war had devastating consequences for the people of Kashmir. An estimated 200,000 to 500,000 people had been killed and countless others had been displaced. The war also left a lasting legacy of violence and hatred between India and Pakistan. The unresolved nature of the conflict continues to be a source of tension and conflict between the two nations even today. Did you know that there is a third country in the world that claims Kashmir as its own? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that being said, thank you for watching.